I respect everybody until they earn my disrespect. Well, the NSA seems to think that now they don't have to hide their data mining. Big announcement now. They renewed their ability to data mine for whatever it is by the FISA Corp. Who knows how long? What's every 7 years they have to renew? Whatever. But as I'm trying to point out here is that they're doing it right in the wide open now. Right in the wide open. They're not trying to hide it anymore. As if, like the talking heads, the pundits on TV try to tell us, oh, we're okay with this as long as it's fighting terrorism. Well, that's absolute horseshit. We're not alright with this. This is a blatant constitutional infringement on every single American. I think now we're starting to see how people like Justice Roberts was convinced at the last minute to change his vote on the constitutionality of bunghole scare. This abysmal piece of legislation should never have passed. And when, the whole constitutionality of it to make a American citizen buy anything for any reason is absolutely 100% unconstitutional. To say anything different is absolutely wrong. And men in robes that sit upon the Supreme Court, to make that statement, to say that it is constitutional, is 100% wrong. These people should be taken off of our Supreme Court. If they can't see, I'm not the smartest guy. Look at me, I'm a toothless fucking hick from the hills. But I carry a pocket version of the Constitution with me everywhere I go. And nowhere in that Constitution does it say that the government can make me buy anything. As a matter of fact, it prohibits the government from making me buy anything. So, to get this legislation passed, Old Bunghole and the NSA took the information that they had, that they data mine on every single one of us. It's not just you and I anymore, and it hasn't been for a long time. It is high-ranking officials, Supreme Court justices, politicians, cops, lawyers, everybody. Everybody is getting data mined. So they have blackmail. They have ammunition to blackmail each and every single one of us. And I think I can point out Justice Roberts being blackmailed. At the very last minute, remember the 11th hour, all of a sudden he decided that Bunghole Scare was constitutional. It's absolutely wrong. But the reason he did that was the NSA had collected information that led them to the fact that Justice Roberts, when he adopted his two Irish children, did so usurping international anti-child trafficking laws. Now, I don't personally believe, as much as I've read, I don't personally believe he broke any, I hate to say it, any actual laws. Is what he did was he usurped the system. The system was put in place, of course, to stop child trafficking. And he usurped that. So anyway, technically he broke laws. And they used that against him to get him to legalize a bunghole scare, an unconstitutional mandate on every single citizen. Except unless you're a Muslim. But we'll get around to that some other time. But the data mining is being used far and wide. Edward Snowden illustrated to us how a low guy on a totem pole, just some lowly guy, could get access to information. Oh, they're not supposed to. It's getting that without a warrant. Really? Edward Snowden did it without a warrant. He's just some little guy, remember? So that illustrated that a lot of people, and then it came out later, it's actually 1.5 million, I heard they said, people had the access to this information, this data mining. Can you imagine that? 1.5 million people have access to your and my personal information, our personal emails, our personal... Anyway, while we're on the subject, I just wanted to give a shout out to the NSA. I know they're listening, so... But Justice Roberts did usurp the system, and he was going to be exposed for that. Now, a lot of people, you might think, of course, rightfully would think, this guy can't sit in our, Supreme Court if, he's breaking laws and he's going around and he's usurping. So, this is one of the possibilities of what could have happened. And the stories I read, this is exactly what happened. Justice Roberts was blackmailed over this information. That puts every single American at risk for being blackmailed by the government. This is tyranny. When people fear the government, it is tyranny. When the government fears the people, it is freedom. We need to understand this. They're data mining. They're having cops sit on the side of the road with these computers that now record every single car that passes by them. By the license plate. Records where you were, at what time, what direction to travel. Isn't that sweet? We got drones flying overhead, 30,000 feet, looking down, reading my watch. Isn't that sweet? Why are we living in a 1984 society? George Orwell would have been horrified if he saw this shit. He wrote a fantasy book, and I don't really think that he meant it for the government to use as a blueprint on how to turn people into zombies. When people are afraid to speak their minds, this is suppression. Suppression of thought, suppression of freedom. And this is exactly what's going on. If you're afraid to speak your mind to your friend through an email, because it is going to get put in a computer, filed away, in case they need it. In case they want to look into your past, down the road. Are you out of your minds? Are we really putting up with this? Are we really what the talking heads say and just a bunch of sheep? Bah, do what you want to me. Bah. No, I think we're a nation of wolves. I think that the 3% that keeps getting recited as, because only 3% were actually involved in the Revolutionary War, who actually won our freedom. I think, in my mind, I see a lot of people waking up. A lot of people. And they are pissed. Oh, so pissed. I think 3% is a very, very conservative estimate. I think there's a lot more. People are looking into the Obonghole fraud. Obonghole is 100% absolute fraud. He is not who he tells you he is. He's using a fraudulent social security number. He had a fraudulent he had a fraudulent birth certificate. I mean, everything about this punk is a fraud. If they can do this to a Supreme Court judge, you don't think that they're doing this to Benghazi survivors? 30 people came back from Benghazi, were witnesses to what happened, that know this or know that. 30 people. You don't believe in your minds, we hear about all the time people having these book deals. You don't think that somebody has approached one of these 30 people and said, do you know how much money you can make off of a book if you were to tell what happened that night? Seriously, think about that. So, I think it's blatantly obvious to me that, yep, the NSA was hard at work. Now, remember, me and my tinfoil hat, I was right when I said that the IRS was targeting not only conservative groups, but individuals. And not only were they doing that, but they were bringing other government agencies in to harass and harangue patriot citizens and conservative and patriot groups. They were bringing in other agencies. This is tyranny. Again, as I said, another fine example of government tyranny. Because they were harassing us. They were harassing groups. They were harassing people. They were bringing in other government agencies to harass. And if you think that the NSA is not as corrupt as that is, remember Edward Snowden. Now, God bless, I think, Edward Snowden, because he could have taken that information and used it for evil purposes. To me, the guy's a hero. What he did was he exposed what every one of us tinfoil hats have been saying for years. That yes, our phone calls are being listened to. And now we know every single one of us are. They're not listening in unless they get a warrant. That's a friggin' lie. That's a lie. Do you really honestly believe that? I'm telling you right now. Edward Snowden, a little guy on a totem pole, he taught us that. That's frickin' bullshit. And now they're stockpiling away. And they're doing it blatantly in the open as if they had the right. It is 110% unconstitutional. It is a seizure of records, a seizure of information on you, on me, on every single American. Every judge, every prosecutor, every cop is being data mined along with you and I. This is Nazi Germany. Nazi frickin' Germany. You know, I love the smoke and mirrors game that is going on with the race riots now. We have the president sticking his nose and the attorney general, who, if you look at it, are racist. They say racist things. They are racist. And it's always trying to get attention away from Benghazi, away from the IRS scandal that just got connected to the White House. Fast and Furious, all of these things that have been going on over the years. And now a cop from Boston has released some photographs because the picture on the cover of the Rolling Stone magazine of the Boston bomber pissed him off. Showed a little cherub picture like they were doing with Trayvon. And I happened to notice in the pictures that he released, and I hope other people go back and look at this. Do you remember when the Boston bomber was first captured inside that boat? Do you remember that? Do you remember the big news flash? The news story was he can't talk now because he has a traumatic throat injury. Do you remember that? I remember that quite clearly because us tinfoil hats were saying, yeah, they don't want him walking through the courtroom screaming Patsy. Remember that? They don't want him to be able to scream Patsy in the courtroom or on the courthouse steps in front of, cameras and whatnot. So we were saying that. We were saying, well, they did that on purpose. Somebody shot him in the throat on purpose, blah, blah, blah. Well, it turns out these photographs this guy just released, they clearly showed no traumatic throat injury. So where did that come from? What was that about? Am I the only one to notice this? What the hell happened to this guy's throat? Because I saw it and it clearly did not have a throat injury at all. Look at the photographs that were just released. Wow. So, let's get after our congressmen and our senators. We got some re-elections coming up. And I say that every single one of these pieces of shit that actually voted for a bunghole scare, an unconstitutional amendment on you and I, every single one of them need to go. Any congressman or senator that has voted for NDAA, gotta go. Any congressman or senator that knew about this spying on us has to go. They are committing unconstitutional acts upon you and I. Signing something into legislation without reading it, to me, is 100% unconstitutional. How can they write into laws on you and me something they never read, didn't understand? I say we start calling them up en masse and telling them, you're gone. Your job is done. Pack your shit. Get your shit out of the desk. We're going to find somebody else that can actually do the job. And especially these career fossils that are in there. Wow. God bless America.